and Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Andy.
Yo, how's it going?
Good. I've been a fan of the Redshift headlights for a while. I'm really excited that you guys agreed to come on board. And I wanted to ask, so Steve, I know you for sure, you've been involved in the scene for quite a long time. Jay, I don't know if you've had projects before this, I'm sure you have.
Is this a polite way of saying I'm old and he's young?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair
That
enough.
works. I'm a little bit younger, and so I don't know. I played with a bunch of different, bunch of different bands, kind of adjacent, and then I met and played a lot with Dean Hoffman, who plays bass with us, and then I don't know. I've kind of then met Steve. Had played with when I guess like Redshift started with that big Inside Voices show a couple of years ago, and then we just kind of we cut the fat and got rid of 15 other people and cut it down to about 5 or 6 and kind of went from there.
We messed around, kind of jammed a little bit too.
Closer to your mic.
Oh yeah, we jammed a little bit when we were
At the Masonic Center. We had always kind of had like rehearsal spaces or studio spaces like adjacent to each other. So, and then we all lived close to each other. And Oshkosh is a very small town, so you know it works that way.
And
and then I played in a bunch of bands. The first band was called Cookie Bug, I think. Actually, there was a band before that. I played drums in lots of bands, so I'm a drummer originally, and then
Me too.
Finally, yeah, we have like 3 drummers in the band.
Much to the dismay of our actual drummer, Tom.
Who's not really a drummer? He's originally a bass player. So yeah, so we're
Like to keep things exciting.
Anyway, I was in a lot of bands in the 90s, starting with Cookie Bug was the first band I started to write songs for, and then Congratulations on your decision to become a pilot, and then the Willis, and then Tack Octopus, and then this.
Woo.
so both being drummers, were you writing in the previous bands? Or was somebody else taking care of most of the songwriting duties?
I guess Steve probably had a little more experience doing songwriting stuff maybe, but I played guitar with this group and was starting to write stuff with Eric Van Thiel and Nate Frank and Dean Hoffman. But for the most part, I had kind of just did drums up until then and only started playing guitar, I guess, kind of seriously a couple years ago. And then I started to write stuff from there, I guess.
Yeah, and I started writing, tinkering with songs in like 6th grade or 7th grade. I started writing little just things on my own. I remember I got the neighborhood kids together in my basement one time and nobody played an instrument. I said, okay, you do this, you bang on this triangle, and you do this, and you bang on this, and then we'll make a song. So I've kind of been tinkering with the idea. The first song I actually wrote in 6th grade was called Death to All Believers. So I was trying to push the envelope right away, right out of the gates, I think. So
Redshift headlights came about as sort of a solo project, right?
yeah.
And then it evolved into this massive.
Yeah, it was
Full
actually.
band.
It was actually. So many of the songs were the kind of the follow-up songs for the Willis. After we did this, we went and did this pilot in New York on the Jimmy Fallon show, and then we decided to write another record after that happened. We thought, well, because they said, hey, you can come back on when you have your next record. We're like, okay, yeah. So we started to write that, and it just became clear we were all too busy and things just weren't going to work, and the energy wasn't there. So I had these songs, and then they sort of percolated for a while, and then I really wanted to get them out of my head. So invited some friends to come in and record the record, and then we did a live version of it, and then to tour behind it, Jay and Dean and Todd and Paul Van Auken and Justin Mitchell jumped on, and we did a little week-long tour-ish, something like that, 10-day thing.
Yeah, and a handful of random other dates and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then we kind of started writing as a band then a little bit more, and then we recorded this new record, Oshkosh, in the salon where we practice. and recorded it all, did it all ourselves, engineered it ourselves, and then mixed it with Mark Goldie at Rock Garden.
And you're currently building another studio, or a new studio, I should say, in the same spot, but
No, it's a different spot.
Different spot.
Yeah, Dean still owns the salon. My wife and I bought a new house, and there's a big garage in there, so I'm building a kind of a little, really small recording studio in that garage. So that's fun.
is it going to be done in time for the new album?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was drywalling the other day.
We had band
If
practice
anybody
drywall.
knows me, that's what I do all the time. Is drywalling. I think I was wearing this, which shows that I have no idea how to drywall.
You were taken to it though. You did well.
I was caulking with soundproof caulk stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
So how's the process start for building your own studio? You just start acquiring new gear to be on top of the gear you already own, and then
You're gonna buy gear regardless of if you have a studio or not, so that's kind of a different thing.
Right.
I think if you have enough time sitting on your computer in like a bunch of like forums and stuff like that, and you see all these like crazy people who've done it before, you get a spark. And I know Steve, I don't want to speak for him, but Steve likes big, massive projects where he can like do lots of research and build something. And so this is really a natural fit, in my opinion. Your take?
That's fair.
do you have a lot of material written for the new album?
Nothing. No, in fact, we're gonna write it totally as a band. We have kind of an experimental approach we're thinking about. We'll try to follow through with it, but the idea is that everybody's gonna write 2 songs for it, but we don't want the songs to be too developed when they come to the practice while we're writing, so we can write them as a band. So the rule we kind of put in place, that I don't know if we'll follow this, but the idea is that you can't start writing the song until an hour before the practice. If it's your night to bring a song, it can't be too developed in your mind. So you can basically come with some chords and a melody, bring it in, and then as a band we'll write it. So that's kind of what we're thinking about, I think, as one way to build. But some of us have songs also. I think Jay has some songs, and I think Justin has some songs. Dean said he had one. So it might be a combination of this experimental method and then more traditional.
We just have a lot of people with a lot of like unique skill sets, so it's kind of a waste to just either like make one person do all of it, or it's a way to kind of get everybody invested and stuff like that too. Like when you have lives and stuff like that, sometimes it's easy to just say, Steve, you just write all the songs. So I think this is Steve's plan to kind of shift away from that just a bit.
So we should hear a lot of different genres, or there's a possibility that the spectrum's going to be pretty
I don't know.
wide.
There's a lot of veto power, and I don't know. When you have 6 people in a band, there's a lot of restraint that comes from that, because there's so many cool things that happen, but like if all those things are happening at the same time, it's terrible. So you have to just kind of pick and choose. So that's kind of the fun too of bringing things that aren't really developed in. So then you're not really attached to anything, so nobody really has any emotion where it's like, all right, that part, stop doing that, we don't need that now. You know what I mean? You kind of have that freshness and newness, and everybody's kind of bringing their own stuff, so nobody's like super attached to something, and it's easy to just kind of cut stuff and shed stuff as you go.
And any one of us is, like you said, we all have different skill sets, but any one of us could write a record. So
Yeah.
One Todd, I don't think has ever written a record, but he's written songs and written lots of ideas. And Melissa could write a record. She's never written anything. This is her first band she's ever been in, and Melissa Freeman, and she's awesome. And I think I'm really excited to see what she contributes creatively to this new record, because she hasn't done this before. But she knows so much about music, and so it's really exciting to see where she'll take things.
How is it like, okay, so you recorded the last album by yourself. The one before that you did at Rock Garden, Inside Voices. Do you feel like you've got more creative energy doing it yourself? Like did you feel more relaxed? Were you able to explore sounds more, not being on a studio clock?
I don't know if it's relaxing. The relaxing thing is not having to pay for it and not being on a clock like you said, but then you have to then also do all the stuff that you would normally pay for. There's kind of a reason some of that stuff's expensive, whether it's the nice gear or just the knowing how to just we can all do the same things, but it might take Steve and I, especially a couple of years ago, an hour to do something that a more professional person can do in 15 minutes or something like that. So there's a lot of trade-offs that way. I think we all kind of learned a lot afterwards and while we were doing it, and I think that's kind of what, at least for me, kind of how I caught the bug for doing all this stuff, was kind of like learning stuff as you go, and then afterwards getting super big into like just continuing to learn, I guess.
The big pitfall with doing it yourself is that you can just dink around forever, and so but most of us in the band are kind of goal-oriented people, and I'm a deadline person, and Jay is too, I think, and so we kind of we impose these deadlines for getting a record out, and Justin also is kind of a deadline person, so we're shooting for it. So it wasn't relaxing really. We were pushing to get it done and to finish it, and that was exciting, but it was a little stressful too. So I mean, that's the kind of stress I like, though. I like to.
Good creative stress.
Yeah.
We're gonna play a song off the latest album. The song is "Al Eyed as a Preacher." Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about the song?
So there was a musician in Oshkosh named Al Eyed. I think he's in Colorado now, but he's kind of this made musician, and he's not super skilled as a musician, but he has this vision for his music, and a lot of people think it's a little cheesy. It sort of has a metal edge to it, but there's just something so. I've been enamored of the guy for so long. There's something just so beautiful in his effort and in his just kind of doing it himself. He made a bunch of records himself, and he sold them. A lot of people bought them because they thought they were funny records, but they're a cool expression of the human spirit. So for me, he's this really interesting person who straddles the line between sort of being an artist and being sort of an outcast. And I think I always feel like I'm in that territory too, and sometimes, and I think any artist who's trying to do something interesting feels like, am I being weird? Is this insane? Should I not do this, or is this cool? And so this song's kind of it's about him, but it's also about this town. But I've just always been really inspired by this person for a variety of reasons.
Steve, I wanted to ask you about your vocal style.
Yeah.
I want to know about it too. Well, I want to ask you about my vocal style.
Let's get into it.
So you've got a nice, relaxing, kind of a storytelling voice.
All right.
Which I like.
Yeah. So not a singing voice though.
It's a singing, storytelling, relaxing voice.
Okay. So I'm almost hitting the notes. I got it.
I find when I listen to the Redshift Headlights, I like the fact that I feel like I'm listening to a story. Like some music I listen to and it feels like whoever the songwriter was just, lyric puked out a bunch of stuff that fit the cadence. But when you're writing a song, do you have a story in your head already that you want to tell? Obviously Oshkosh, a lot of it is about Oshkosh.
It's different at different times. For this record, I didn't. This record is really just a series of images, and so that's kind of the way, and lines and bits and pieces of things that have happened in Oshkosh. I didn't really have a vision for the songs. I didn't want them to be too cohesive. I wanted them to be a little sort of decentered and unstable. But there is still a kind of something going on, I think, in terms of a narrative. But this one was different. I had fun writing this because I took bits and pieces of different drafts. I rewrite songs many times, so I'll have each song probably has 6-7 drafts.
A lot.
Lyric drafts,
Yeah.
and I kept a couple lines from each of those drafts, right? And then and so some of the kind of non sequitur stuff. I liked, so I kind of went with it, that resulted because of those drafts.
Recording a lot of it yourself, do you find that you go back and want to change stuff more than you normally would?
No, you just held off recording your vocals till like the absolute last part or whatever. We did a lot of like dummy vocals or a lot of like dummy like mixes or whatever. So those would just kind of stay in there for a long time because yeah, the song, at least in my experience, it would just keep changing and stuff like that, or it'd keep updating.
And it had partly to do with what people were adding as parts, so
Sure.
that, there would be like an emotional climb in the music. I'm like, okay, this has to go somewhere else or something, right? So it
Goes back to having so many instruments and so many whatever is like you're mixing and all of a sudden you're finding this part and then all of a sudden you bring that part up and you bring something else down and the whole song kind of changes, and then maybe if you had a line or something there, it's like, well, if I'm singing over this I lose it, so then take this line out, but then that line doesn't work. So yeah, it makes sense holding all the vocals and stuff kind of till the end, but it also presents different challenges as well, obviously.
Do you feel that being a drummer in the past, was it hard to get up in front and be the front man?
it is. I don't like to play. I mean, I enjoy it once we're doing it, but and I enjoy the music and I enjoy playing with people, the 5 of us, but the 6 of us. I get anxious. It's not my cup of tea. Sometimes I'm just in a bad mood and I don't want to talk to anybody and I have to still play.
You've been involved in the scene for so long. Has it changed?
So long.
Decades and decades. Has it changed a whole lot since you started? Or is it more or less the same?
I think it's really exciting right now. Like there's some really some young bands that I'm really excited about. Cave Paintings and Present Age and just a bunch of like cool, exciting young musicians who are doing things that like I think we were trying to do when we were 20. But there were fewer of us. Now there are more of us. So it's like there's a bigger army of musicians in the Fox Valley and in Oshkosh too. So that's pretty cool.
Has there been more venues to play now than there was, or is it the opportunities different as far as all ages versus bars?
It seems like there's more like younger people, and there are places, at least in Oshkosh, where there are more like almost like go-to type venues for that. There's a cool place right next to my house called Jambalaya, which is like an art studio, and they've been doing lots of cool shows there. Next door is the New Moon. There are a lot of bands that are starting to play now. I know my buddy Tanner, who's in a cool band called Cricket. They've been doing a lot of shows and stuff like that.
They're awesome.
Yeah, I think they have a release show with Dusk and some other band in December at the New Moon. But yeah, they're a cool band. Nice guys too.
Shuby. I think Shuby's on that bill.
I traded a guitar with that guy. Yep.
We got the better deal.
I think I did, but what I gave up was unique. It was a fair trade.
Okay.
I'm confident saying that.
A win-win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Currently, right now, you guys don't have anything coming up. That was announced, right?
I don't think so.
Not until end of February. We're gonna do the Racket Fest.
Oh, okay. But yeah, not this year, I don't think anymore.
Yeah. Then we're gonna hole up and try to write.
Racket Fest is put on largely by Justin Mitchell, who's in your band.
Right. Yeah. And he's just a community guy. He loves to like build. He likes big projects too, but he likes things that involve the community, and he's invested in commerce and stuff like that too. He like works with bars and tries to kind of make Oshkosh a healthier economic music art kind of scene, and so he has lots of ideas for doing that, and this is one of those. And so the Racket Fest is running from February 27th to 29th, 3 nights of music and 22 bands, and the theme this year is reunion bands, and so there are a lot of amazing bands from the 90s, 2000s, and more recently that are going to be playing that weekend. It's an exciting thing. It's going to be at Omaro's Public House on Oregon.
In like 20th, yeah.
20th.
In Oshkosh.
So I see Dean's old band is getting back together.
Which band?
Which one? Toothbrush?
Oh, the Lost Toothbrushes. So he was in that band. I don't know if he's gonna. Is he gonna play?
Couldn't tell you.
So they had another guitarist too later than Bob Eichhoff, who lives in Milwaukee, and Dean might play a couple songs. They might. So yeah, and that was a great band. And Alan Weatherhead was the songwriter for that band. We all lived together, 1119 Cherry Street in Oshkosh in the 90s. And then Alan went out to Richmond, Virginia and started working at Dave Lowry's studio, Sound of Music. And so then he did produce some Cracker and engineered Cracker records. He toured with Radiohead and played in Sparkle Horse and did lots of really cool things. He's in a band with the drummer from the Ben Folds Five. I can't think of his name, but he's coming back, and a lot of Babelfish and a lot of other former Oshkosh bands are coming back to play this. It should be a really fun. It will be a really fun weekend. I'm gearing up.
Any chance that congratulations on your decision to become a pilot will reunite for this event?
It won't. There's not a chance. But
That happened like a year ago,
yeah,
I think, right?
It was like
a couple years ago.
The reptile.
Yeah, and so we did that. But Eric Van Thiel and Jeremy Wood and I are planning when we turn 50 to make the second record. So and so that's not too far away, really. So it's on the horizon. So we're excited about that, and then we'll probably do that in my little garage studios.
Do you think you'll be taking on other projects that aren't affiliated with you directly?
For tax purposes, no.
I think it might be fun. It will be fun to record a couple of our friends' bands. Like I think we wanted to maybe have Cricket in to test the studio out, and if they're available in game, and some friends from Minneapolis, Dallas Orbiter might come in. We're gonna just see what we can do. Jay's really interested in engineering too, and so I think we're gonna see what we can cook up on that side of the musical whatever it is.
Just nice between
Continuum.
Steve's place and then Dean's place, the salon, just having, all the gear, all the resources, all the different people, all the space and all that stuff. It's just nice to have all that stuff open.
Yeah, there's a whole recording setup at the salon that's a great setup and really great preamps and all kinds of really converters and everything. So
All the cool nerd stuff.
Totally.
We've got it all
Yeah.
good there.
yeah, so we've got kind of two studios we can kind of bump back and forth and track things.
I've seen some really good videos from the salon. I like practice videos.
Yeah, it's a cool place. We did one video in there. You probably doesn't look a lot like the studio. John Pata, who's a great film director, he did like Dead Weight and wrote like that Gags the Clown movie. We did we did the song at the end of the Gags the Clown movie, Spy for Spy, band with Dean and Eric Bloomreich and Bill Gracely. But we did a music video there for some song, and it was all like Twin Peaks inspired. I've never seen the show, but it had like the black and white floor and the red curtain and all. I don't know. It's pretty
Just
cool.
like Twin Peaks, huh?
Apparently, I've been told
Wouldn't you
that.
agree?
Like Twin
Just-
Peak.
just
Is
like-
that what I said?
No, I don't know.
I don't know. I've never seen it. I heard it's good.
You should see it.
But yeah, you can go on YouTube and check that out. I think there's a couple versions of it, but it's cool.
I'm guessing you watched the Gigs movie.
Yeah, we went and saw it at the Meyer Theater in Green Bay, and it was fun. We had a good time. It was cool. I like that movie a lot. I think Adam Krause was the director of it.
Is it kind of weird to see or hear your song at the end of the movie?
Yeah, a little bit. It was cool. It's just kind of fun to be in a theater like that and see a lot of people who are just kind of like clapping and animated and kind of were all invested, and it was a lot of fun. It was a cool thing to be a part of.
I was sitting up in the balcony for that.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah. I left before the question and answer portion though.
I typically do that too, but I think we were in the middle.
You need to beat the traffic. The song I want to play next is a song called When I Grab Hold, and I wanted to talk about the performance on Rock Garden, where it starts out Steve is playing all these instruments and looping things, and then it just builds into this massive song. And you had a lot of local musicians on there, a lot of friends of yours.
Right.
And it was just an amazing video. I played it for my wife a couple days ago, and she loved it. Can you tell me like how that kind of came about, and how was it tackling something of that magnitude? There's a lot of people in there.
Yeah, it did get out of hand. So the recording got out of hand first. So then I started, I was recording that. It was going to be just a one-day record. I was going to go in and just make this quick record, do it all live, and then I just got into that process and it started to sound okay. And I'm like, well, maybe let's add some things. So then I started to add some things, and then I decided, well, maybe let's see if I could score some string parts. And so I started to do that, and then added horns, and then it became really orchestral. But that was a looping band, so that was called Attack Octopus, and it became Redshift Headlights. So I didn't want the music to be too far afield of what I could do looping wise. So a lot of the strings and horn parts are really just doubling the piano part, so it's really just textures that are being added with those extra instruments. Well, then once the record was done, it seemed like we should try to do it live. And so I asked a lot of friends, who I still owe a lot of favors to come in, and we did like 1 or 2 rehearsals, and we banged it out that afternoon. With the full group at Mark's place, and then recorded it that night, and it turned out okay. It was good. It was good, but we weren't super prepared. We could have used it.
Was that one take?
Yeah, I don't think we redid any songs.
No, yeah, it was just
Impressive.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, trying to pick out like who was in there. It's like, I recognize them. And
Right.
any plans to go back and maybe do a rock garden live? Maybe for the next album?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
You guys did 30-minute music hour too, a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, I've never watched that. I feel, I don't know, this is a band that we've kind of like a lot of bands that aren't perhaps like professional or aren't super young or don't have time to do stuff more than like once a week or whatever. It's kind of one of those things where you just kind of keep getting better as you play and stuff like that. So it's one of those, like, looking back on the past handful of years, like, I feel like we're just kind of getting kind of good playing with each other and stuff. So I kind of shudder to look back at some of that stuff. I'm sure it's fine though. Right? I don't know.
I don't know. You know,
I just-
you make a thing and you move on. That's kind of how
I'm
it
just
is.
preventing, I think, people from Googling that in case it's bad. I don't know. I haven't watched it. The
Yeah,
30-minute music hour thing?
I don't think you've discouraged anyone by saying there's something horrible out there that you should not see ever.
I never said
that I've
I'm
been a
just,
part of.
I don't. I was there.
Right. You were
I
there.
wasn't confident with myself.
The 30-minute music hour show is nice because if you've got a Roku player, you can download the PBS app and you can find the Redshift Headlights episode pretty easily, and you can watch it in HD.
But don't do that. Don't
Sponsored
do
by
that.
Roku or something.
We're kind of talking a little bit about gear. Jay, you've got a lot of stuff. What type of guitars do you prefer?
I usually use Fender. I use a Fender Jaguar, and I like Fender guitars, I guess. And yeah, I don't know. I like the stuff I do in this band. Once again, it always kind of goes back to having so many people and many different instruments, and so you have all the kind of parts covered. And so I don't really do a lot of like Guitar Hero stuff or big like power chords or any of that stuff. That's a lot of just kind of texture-y, you know, whatever type pretentious stuff, I guess. So yeah, so I have lots of weird gear and gadgets and stuff like that, and I don't know, I just like making sound and playing with all that kind of stuff.
What do you use? Steve?
I've got I use my old Fender Bassman, 68 Fender Bassman head, silver face with black face circuitry, I think,
But
right?
a 68 twin reverb.
That's right.
Silver face with a face, but it's a black face. I don't know. No one shares. It's so stupid.
No, it's not. It's really good stuff.
It's what people want.
Documenting it.
Mhm.
So when the Redshift Headlights cover band starts, we're able to mimic the tone.
You use 12AX7 tubes in your amp?
I do.
Oh.
No,
Okay.
I do in the PV.
Oh, you don't have 12AX7s? Yeah, you do in your. Yeah.
I feel. Yeah, maybe I do. I don't know a lot about that kind of stuff.
All right.
As far as tubes go, are you guys purists? Like you want a tube amp?
Total. Yeah, only two pure tube amps.
I like-
Not impure tube amps.
Yeah. I like. We have this one like weird twin reverb in our studio that's like half tube and half solid state. Fender made them for a while in the 80s, and they don't break up. They have kind of like the solid stateness, so they are like the loudest amps on the planet. If you're doing any sort of like high type stuff, it doesn't break up. It just squeals in your face, and But I like rolling jazz courses. Those are nice, solid stadiums.
Someday, Jay.
Indeed.
And I've got for acoustic guitars, I have a one's a 64 Gibson B15, and I think it's 64, and then a 68 Gibson B25. They're both like student guitars, so they're smaller acoustic guitars. I like that really kind of small sound, like a big jumbo sound. I like this kind of an anemic, hard to listen to guitar sound. That's my thing.
It just runs it straight into like a tube driver.
Which no one ever is supposed to ever do.
Yep, and it just sounds nice and crackly. That was the kind of thing with like making that record with his vocals and stuff too, was to have, Steve did like a good like take of his voice, but then we kind of used all those like old like kind of premixes and stuff to just throw behind, and with like bad mics or with lots of distortion or weird effects, and to just kind of like stack vocals that way and have this kind of, I don't know, more raw or just kind of like distorted different type of sound. And I don't know, I think it sounds cool. The guitar similarly, it's like a bad acoustic guitar basically, and it kind of, once again, it just gives like this different color when you have all these different instruments doing stuff, so it stands out in the mix.
But I've like to defend against trying to sound good, so anything I can do to bring down the level of goodness.
Well, I mean, at some point it would sound bad if you just had like a really great DI acoustic guitar with lights, you know what I mean? Like that's not the way you play electric guitar
Right.
just on an acoustic, and that's just kind of the sound. And I don't know, it sounds good in my opinion.
So and then I just have one electric guitar still. I have a Gibson 86 Gibson Melody Maker. So I only own 3 guitars. Like I have friends with 20 guitars. Just 3's good. I'm good.
I have a couple. I just see one.
One's for sale. I'm trying to get down to 2.
What are you selling?
I'm selling the B15, but I've got it priced on the top edge of it because I'm not sure I want to sell it. So.
Steve is an active mover and shaker in the
Well, I'm trying to pay.
Craigslist
I'm
community.
trying to pay for this studio, so I'm buying and selling gear and getting rid of some things I have, and because I owe Lowe's some money for drywall and
Did you take out a Lowe's credit
2x6s. I've had one for a long time actually.
That's like a dangerous old person thing.
I know. Well, I did when we. Yeah, that's one.
That's why you rent.
I don't want to talk about real estate right now. When we bought our last house, we had to get a Lowe's card to fix it up because we bought fixer-uppers. We're not in the market for move-in ready. That's just not our economic wheelhouse.
Why do that?
Right.
Normally do this at the top of the show, but I didn't do it today. What bands are kind of the foundation that got you into what you like now? Whether it be like a guilty pleasure type band. I personally like Doug Gibson and Motley Crue kind of coming through the years, but it seems like everybody's got some bands that stick with them, kind of influence what they do.
My favorite band is Radiohead, and I kind of steal all the kind of swirly guitar playing from that. And then, I don't want to say like guilty pleasure by any means, but like U2, 1000%, like kind of Edge's guitar playing and that delay. And I mean like a song like Skyline of those times with that like guitar delay line, like that's basically just like ripped off Edge guitar playing, and just kind of the textures and the sound and all that type of stuff. So those would be my definite ones for sure.
Started with the Mandrell sisters, and then Barbara Mandrell.
Feels like
Come on, oh man, that was a good one. Chuck Martin's out there cackling. And then Iron Maiden. I got into Iron Maiden in 7th grade, so I was just obsessed with Iron Maiden for a while. And then I discovered jazz, and then I was just all about jazz for 4, 5, 6 years. And then when I moved into the Cherry Street house, I had never heard of the Replacements, and then I was like, what? And so then it was a whole other world, and then Nirvana happened, and so then, just the openness of loose music where you didn't have to really practice that hard to be in a band, I like that appealed to the laziness in me, and I've never left that
Gotcha.
sense.
Spot on.
So I don't practice, and I'm still in a band, and that's nice. So, but then Chavez. Later bands, Chavez, Radiohead for sure.
Chavez is so good.
And
I was listening to them yesterday.
Bark Market. I mean, there's some bands that are kind of foundational. me too, like that, so, yeah.
Yeah, I liked all those.
All right, good.
You two I really like.
Yeah, UT's great.
Yeah, but Radiohead I never got huge into Radiohead.
Someday you'll learn.
Of course, Nirvana. Yeah.
That was my like first favorite band because my dad liked them at the time, and so I listened to that album like crazy growing up, and, like REM and Green Day and all that. So
It's hard to believe that bands like Green Day are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now, because that just shows how old they are now.
yeah, they're like 50 and still like trying to be cool. I don't know. Whatever.
What do you guys think of some of these venues, like the Gibson Music Hall in Appleton? I know we lost Concert Cafe like 15 years ago. They've got the Lyric Room up there now. It seems like Concert Cafe used to get touring acts coming through often. Gibson once in a while. Is there anything in Oshkosh?
I mean, we just have, the only place that brings in music occasionally where people come through and they know about it is our dive bar, our CBGB of Oshkosh, which is the Reptile Palace. So and people will come through on a weird night sometimes, you know. Which is, I think, how Concert Cafe got all those, you know, largely got those big groups on Tuesday, Thursday, you know, they'd have Jesus Lizard on a Wednesday and you'd be like, what? But Tom Smith is just a force up there too, so that's probably a big part of it. He just ran that place and did it.
He's still doing it.
And he's still doing it, yeah. I mean, the Lyric Room's great.
I like the Lyric Room. We play their
Yeah.
Spy vs. Spy a lot.
What's Spy vs. Spy working on since you're here?
We actually just did tracking for, I think we did 6 songs a couple weeks ago. And we're just, I guess, in the process now of starting to do overdubs and stuff like that. So we actually play, I just remember that,
Oh, yeah.
December 5th,
This
maybe?
week.
Is it really?
Yeah.
All right.
This Thursday.
This Thursday. Oh man, is it really? I
You
guess
guys
I
should go and practice.
We might. But yeah, we're playing with at Reptile in Oshkosh on Thursday, December 5th, with Tromp and Darnet.
Yeah.
I think both out at
That's right.
Appleton, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So there's a plug for that.
Big show.
Being in multiple bands, does that ever
Always confusing.
interfere with Redshift Headlights, though, as far as...
No, because Dean also is in both bands.
So Dean's screwing stuff up, too.
Yes, it's perfect.
But we're not really ambitious to get out there and play a ton anyway, so it's like, you know, I think when we put a record out, we'll play 10 shows and play it.
No more, no less.
And that's,
We got a couple rules in this band.
yeah, we're not super, you know, into playing all the time, so. We're all parents and older and, you know, we can't, I can't, I gotta go to bed at 9:30 now.
Exactly, I get it.
You guys did Mild Music a couple years ago. How was that experience?
It was probably really hot that day, if I'm remembering correctly.
It was warm, yeah. It was fun. It was you know, it was a little whirlwind. We kind of cruised around and played three things I think that day. It was fun.
I remember they had they had root beer on tap, and it confused everybody because it looked like beer, and it was in like a keg. And I
Yeah.
remember Todd, I think you too, were
Excited and then not excited?
Yeah, it was like a little spit take kind of.
as someone who doesn't drink very much, I was very excited to learn that it wasn't like some weird beer or something.
What the heck is this? Yeah, there was some disgruntled
Contrasting emotions.
responses to that.
What was the best Redshift Headlight show, in your opinion, so far? Just a show that you loved.
Mm.
I
Everything
don't
was...
think it exists.
All cylinders were firing.
Every single one.
Everybody in the pocket.
I don't know. I don't think we had one that I'm like really thrilled about.
No, I think
One
the
of
past
Oshkosh-
year the past handful of shows I think have been alright.
Main Street Music Fest maybe?
Maybe.
It's okay, I don't know.
Sure.
I have no idea.
That's typically
That's
the
pretty much-
week before Mild Music, I think.
Yeah, it's the week of EAA, so it's the last week in July, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Because EAA is the first week in August.
Right, yeah. Well, you know what
Something
my
like
favorite is? I think that Madison show was like one of the last found
The Frequency?
Frequency.
That's a
That-
cool place.
That was a good. Yeah, those shows were good.
Never played there, I always wanted to, and then it closed.
Yeah, well, we got to do their 20th anniversary or 10th anniversary with some awesome bands, and it was packed, and that was a fun one. And
I was really sick, if I remember
you were
correctly.
really sick, and
I
Justin's
went home.
Rhodes didn't work, and so he played the whole show on this little like 2-octave Roland keyboard, and it sounded good, and it was fun, and it was noisy, and it was good. The bullet calls out from his room at night. He says the mathematicians are all shouting in his mind. He walks into a train in the middle of winter. Sarah rewrites in her class notebook. All she wants is to be invisible. Decorate her room with ornaments on the ceiling. Since we don't believe Christmas anymore. When I climb upstairs, that's when I hear the Lord's name. Such a long line that stole my youth. There was no light on, just have a feeling. All Tony wants are just some more coats he can wear. And Hart had hopes to play acoustic guitar for the band. We all need to know where we belong. Walk the streets just searching for a home. Ornaments on the ceiling. Since we don't believe Christmas anymore. When we climb the stairs, that's when we hear the Lord's name. It's such a long life that stole my youth. There was no light on, just have a feeling. All these years, but just for the living, it doesn't matter.
That was Long Life from the Redshift Headlights. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio
Thanks,
today.
Andy. Appreciate it. It was really fun.
Thank you.
Stephen J, they'll be working on the next album soon, and catch them this coming February at the Oshkosh Racket Fest.